you doing out there, Olivia? My name is Crem, and I'm your Director of Fitness, and I wanted to thank you for joining me for another week's video of the Mastering Form workout series. The Mastering Form workout series is really meant to give you some tools and tips that you can do on utilizing proper form when it comes to performing exercises, which is really important, is to make sure that you're doing your moves properly, so that way you develop your body the way you would like to, but also more importantly that you stay safe and you're less likely to injure yourself when you're doing those movements. So that's why the Mastering Form series is so important. Okay, so what we've done is really kind of go through some common exercises that you might have done yourself, or maybe that you've seen and you want to try, and really kind of break it down for you to kind of give you the whys behind the what. So we're going to continue to do that today, but we're going to introduce something a little bit different for you, as well as just a different form that you can use with regards to the type of equipment that you may have either at the gym or at home or just sort of lying around. So we'll kind of get into that a little bit. But if this is your first time participating in this workout series or any workout series, it's always important just to kind of check with your doctor. Make sure everything is okay before you begin to take on a new routine. And have some water with you. We're going to go through this nice and slowly, but it's important just to stay hydrated, just like any other time. So have some water nearby. I've got mine. Just kind of bring yours along. And just make sure you have a space that you feel like you've got enough room in to really move around. All right, so let's get into it. Today I thought it would be a really fun idea to incorporate one of my favorite pieces of exercise equipment to use that sometimes gets kind of missed or kind of left behind, but there's so many great exercises you can do with it, and that's a medicine ball. Now, medicine balls are weighted, and they come in many different types of designs, and you'll see some with grips on them, some that are smooth. But the main functionality of a medicine ball is that it's weighted, and they go all the way up from 2 pounds, 3 pounds, all the way up. So they can get very light, and they can be very heavy. But one of the reasons why I like medicine balls is because there's a lot of versatility that you can do with your exercise movements. A lot of the exercises that you're currently doing, or maybe you've done before, or you're interested in doing, you can use a medicine ball, and it really adds a great sort of spin on it. It adds some spice to it, and it can really challenge your body's movements in a way that you aren't accustomed to. So I really like it. I wanted to introduce it to you today so we can kind of have some fun with it. Now, if you don't have a medicine ball, a basketball works, right? So it's not going to have obviously as much resistance, but it'll give you that same feel. You can also use a pillow. So if you feel like, okay, I don't have a basketball or soccer ball or volleyball at home, you can use a pillow. Probably something like a small throw pillow would be helpful there, or a sack of potatoes. Just something that you have some weight to, or you feel like you can handle safely and position on your body in different ways. So you can have some variety if you don't have a medicine ball, but if you're thinking about adding something to your home gym, a medicine ball is something I would absolutely say add. Now, this is an 8-pound ball. I would say if you're just starting out and you haven't used one of these before, start light. Really think about where your comfort level is. So maybe start with a 6-pound ball or a 4-pound and just sort of see how you go. You can always progress. Like I said, they get really heavy. So start with something that you feel comfortable with, but an 8-pounder is what we're going to use today. All right, so let's jump on in there. Now, the first exercise we're going to go through is we're going to do a squat with a bicep curl, with the front of the arm curl, but we're going to do it with the ball. Now, of course, you've seen probably a squat done before. A squat is a great overall leg developing move. It really helps to strengthen and tone and tighten the overall thighs, the rear end area. So it's a great exercise to incorporate. But you can also, you've done it maybe with, or seen it with, just doing your own body weight. Maybe you've done it with a barbell, maybe you've done it with dumbbells, maybe you do it with kettlebells. A ball is a great way to incorporate into that too. So let's go ahead and do it. We're going to switch it up and kind of add to it with adding a bicep curl or front of your arm curl with that too. So I'm going to break down each part of this move so that way you're aware of what part of the body you should be feeling that at and the importance of those moves there. but remember we're going to be using the ball or something that's similar to it. All right. Now, with the squat, we're going to go about hip width apart, hip to shoulder width apart, pretty traditional squat. You want to make sure when you're squatting that you got your feet forward, toes forward as well. There's variations to that depending on what part of the leg you want to target more, but we're going more of a traditional stance with this move here. Now with the ball, I want to have it, I'm going to show you from two different angles, but we'll start here. I want to have my elbows at the side of my body. Okay, so I don't want them to be up high. I don't want them to be way out here, just at the side. I want to keep my core tight. That's always something that's important to do when you're exercising, specifically when you're doing squats. And I want to have good posture. So we'll start with the squat first. I'm going to go rear end, like I'm going to sit down in a chair, keeping that chest up. And I'm just driving through the heels. And ideally, I want to see if I can get my rear end parallel to my knees, dropping those hips just like that. And I want to make sure my knees don't extend beyond my toes. So what I want to avoid doing is doing this when I squat. Notice the difference in my knees, right? So rear and backwards. Now with the curl part, we're going to bring the ball up and down. And I'm focusing on squeezing the front of the arms here, right there, right? So my elbows are positioned at the side of my body. They're not out front, so I'm not doing this. I want to avoid that. I want to avoid the swinging. I want to stay right here and controlled, just like that. Now let's put them together, right? Let's see how we can do it together. And a great thing about doing an exercise that incorporates multiple movements is it's more bang for your buck. You're working multiple muscle groups at the time. And it's good for if you don't have a lot of time. So let's say you want to do some upper body and lower body. You don't have a lot of time to devote to your workout that day. This is a good exercise you can do. All right, so here we go. We're going to squat down and curl at the same time. Curl. Now, it's important to make sure, and you want to note, while I'm curling in that squat position, my elbows do come out in front of my body a little bit, okay? Make sure when you're doing that, you're still keeping your chest up. You don't want to collapse your lower back. So here, curl, I'm squatting, and I'm curling. Now let's say, for instance, you say, well, from a coordination standpoint, that's not quite, I really don't feel comfortable kind of doing it at the same time. That's okay. What we can do is we can squat first, come up, then curl. So we can squat first, come up, curl. So you see, you can separate the movement if you feel like you need to kind of focus on one at a time. If you want to make it more challenging, you can do them both together. Stomach is tight, back is straight, and I'm breathing. Okay, so either way, you're going to work front of the thigh, back of the legs, rear end with the squat. You're definitely going to get the front of the arms in with that. And the benefits to working those muscles, engaging that, doing that curl, is really when you develop your front of the arms and your biceps, you utilize those muscles a lot for activities, whether it's pulling, specifically a lot of pushing is important, right? You know, when you're pushing away at anything, when you're carrying things, right? So just your normal day-to-day functions. And of course, just the overall upper body strength that we think about. With legs power the whole body. I'm a firm believer in that. So when your legs are nice and strong, helps to aid in posture, it helps you move, running, walking, all those things that you do, sitting. So it's really important to develop those muscles too. Okay, so let's keep going with the use of the medicine ball or something that we have that's similar to it. Now we're gonna go to a plank on our elbows with a ball tap. So we're just kind of taking it up a notch. These moves may be considered a little bit more advanced to some degree, just depending on where your activity level is starting out at. But remember, we can always modify, do what you feel like you can do when it comes to some of these movements. So we're gonna put the ball out in front of us, or again, if we're using a pillow or a volleyball, basketball, just something as a target point here. Plank is gonna focus a lot on the core, but you also get your back involved with planks, you get your legs involved with planks, so it's a really good, just a strengthening exercise to do overall, especially for the midsection area and the back muscles. You'll get shoulders in there too, so there's a lot going on with a plank, which is a good thing. Now, you can do planks different ways, but we're gonna do this one on our elbows. We want some good distance between our arms and the ball, so it's kind of spaced out in front of me a little bit. We're gonna gotta go a little bit further. I wanna make sure if I'm doing the plank on my elbows that my body is positioned right over my elbows. I don't wanna be way up here, right? And I don't want my arms to be way forward like that. That puts a lot of undue strain on the shoulders. So think about your elbows have to be directly in line of where your shoulders are. All right, let's do this one. So I'm in a plank position, my body is flat, and I'm gonna tap, tap, tap. And I wanna try to keep my core down. I wanna try to avoid doing a lot of turning. Not that that's a bad thing to do. There's an exercise for that, trust me. But for this specific one, we just wanna tap straight on, okay? Now let's say for instance you said, I'm not there yet with that plank. You can modify that by staying on your knees. Elbows are still under the chest. Notice that I'm on my elbows. I'm still flat, low to the ground. My rear end's not up in the air, and I'm gonna tap. So this is definitely a way to modify it until you're ready to get on those toes. Toes. There you go. Good. It doesn't take much time in the plank position. That exercise, specifically even if you're doing them on the knees or the toes, will tire you out. So you'll definitely get that feeling in the core. Also, the tapping the ball, tapping that target, you're gonna get a lot in the upper body. So again, it's about having an exercise that works multiple muscle groups. Great time saver. All right, since we're down here, now I'm gonna show you an exercise that you can do for your core, for your stomach. You're also gonna feel this in the back of the legs. And again, great benefits for engaging in exercises that target multiple muscle groups, right? But the back of the thighs, you're really gonna kind of utilize the ball as a way to support it. So a little something new here with that one. I'm gonna have my legs up. Think of a 90-degree angle. I want my legs to support the ball. Now, when doing this, just make sure, until you probably are used to it, try something light, like a pillow. If you've never done this one before, you may not want to start out with something that's weighted, because you have to utilize your legs to hold it up. You also need the core strength to do it, and you don't want to obviously have this ball roll towards your face with weight on it if you're not used to it. So, start out with a pillow, or maybe an actual like basketball or soccer ball first. Okay, I'm gonna do a crunch, and the goal is to come up and crunch to grab the ball and put it back. What's gonna happen with that is a crunch is really going to balance and tighten my core muscles here. So it's gonna give me a lot of strength in my core area, which is really great. It's gonna support obviously my back and my posture. A crunch is also a really low impact way to work on the stomach versus a sit-up. So there's some really good benefits of doing a crunch, but if you want to add to it, make it more challenging, that's what the ball is here to do. Okay, here we go. We're gonna come up, grab the ball, keep the legs up, put it back. And my goal is to try to put it all the way down where my feet were. There we go. And crunch, keeping my legs up. There we go. So you can see if you're doing these with me, these can get to be tough pretty quick, but they are a really great way to work the stomach, work the back of the legs. You're also getting some arms in there, depending on how heavy this ball is. There we go. Squeeze that stomach in and up. Good. Now, let's say, for instance, doing a crunch with your not supporting your neck is tough for you, but you really want to kind of simulate that move a little bit. What you can do is just have the legs up and support your head. Keep that chin, keep that small space between your chin and your chest, and just go up and down until you get used to it, right? Because if you're not accustomed to doing a crunch without supporting the neck, you may feel like there's a lot of tension there, lifting that head up. So you may want to kind of practice that a little bit before you commit to, putting a ball or something on the legs and kind of reaching up and grabbing without the support of your hands, because that can be a little iffy if you're not used to it. But if you can, it's a really good way to kind of add some extra sort of oomph to a crunch move by putting the ball in your leg. So a lot of fun with that one. A lot of fun with that one. Okay, next one we're going to do is we're going to do a row with the raise. Now, with the rows, you've probably seen doing rows with, if you've watched these videos, you've seen me doing with dumbbells before. You've also probably seen them with kettlebells. You can do it with a bar. There's a lot of different ways you could do a row. And the rows are meant to work the back muscles, okay? You've got some really great muscles back there, so engaging them and working them has a lot of benefits just for overall movement and posture and balance. So a good idea to always utilize and work your back muscles. We're going to use the ball, which is just going to incorporate, add a different way of using the back. With a row, just like with dumbbells, if we're doing it, we're going to hinge at the waist. I want to have a slight bend in my knees, okay? I want a flat back, so a neutral spine. I want to avoid having curvature here, right? Because I don't want to put any undue pressure back here. So straight back, slight bend in the knees. I got the ball, my arms are straight, and I'm going to pull the ball right through my back. What I like to imagine is I'm pulling this through my belly button, and I'm squeezing some fruit in between my shoulder blades. Okay, so this is how it looks this way. Slight bend, neutral back, squeeze and pull. I want to avoid having my arms out. Elbows are tight to the body, right there. And what I want to try to do too is to not come up when I do this, right? Sometimes when we row, we also move the body. And I want to avoid doing that. So right here. Good. Now, we're going to add twists to it. We're going to make it a little more challenging because remember, we may not have a lot of time. We want to get a little more bang for our buck. So we're going to do a raise while we do this row. Now, the thing about when you do a raise with something weighted, make sure you don't have any tweaky shoulders, okay? Also, make sure you feel, if you're not sure about raising to your head, start with something light or no resistance at all, okay? So doing this specific move is not something you would probably want to do with a heavy ball or heavy resistance unless you're really accustomed to it and your shoulders are real safe to do it. So, everything's the same. I'm in this row, and now I'm going to raise right to my head. I'm rowing, and I'm raising. Now what I'm doing is I want to make sure when I'm raising to the natural point of my shoulders. I don't want to raise all the way up there. I'm not trying to go beyond my head. It becomes, a natural position. Too much tension on my joints. So I want to make sure I'm in that natural line. So here we go. Raise. And I'm trying to keep my arms straight as much as I can when I do that. Now, everyone's range of motion with shoulders is different. So as far as what your natural movement may be, it may only be right here, and that's okay. That may be because of range of motion or flexibility in the shoulders. It also may be strength, right? And that's okay. So don't try to force it where it's going to be harmful for you. So right here, we row, we raise. We row it, squeeze the shoulder blades, and up. Here, and up. There we go, good. So, working the shoulders, lots of wonderful benefits there. Strong upper body, a lot of, the pushing, the pulling, just maneuvering. Shoulders are really, really important for that. So again, you're getting some dual muscle groups in. One, multiple bang for your buck, which is really, really important to do. Okay, now the next one we're gonna do, the last one we're gonna do, is we're going to do a deadlift, okay? Now deadlifts are really great for working back of the legs, rear end area. So again, that overall strength and development in the legs. You can do deadlifts with nothing at all. You can do them with kettlebells, dumbbells, barbells. You can use all kinds of things. So the ball is just gonna add a little different spin on that. Now, when we're here, we're going to hinge at the hips. So my hips have got to go first. Feet about shoulder width apart, hip width, just like I did when I was squatting and what I did when I was doing rows. So pretty traditional stance there. I'm going to hinge at the hips. And I want to keep that ball close to my legs. And I'm going to go down to where I feel a stretch in the back of my legs and rear end. But again, neutral spine, flat back. No curve, right? No undue pressure on the lower back. And then I'm going to come up here, right? Hinge at the hips, just like that. Come down, and up. Now, since we're working different, a couple muscle groups, let's keep doing that. So we're going to do a deadlift with a press at the top, okay? So here we're going to hinge at the hips, keep it close, bring it up, flip it up, and press, okay? So, hinge at the hips, pushing it out, keep the ball close, bring it up, and press. And the pressing works the shoulders. You also get the arms involved. I want to keep my elbows close to my body when I press, and I want good posture when I do it. And it starts from my chest, I'm pressing straight up. Okay? So, hinge at the hips. And I would recommend kind of taking your time if you're not accustomed to doing this deadlift move, because you really want to be kind to your back. It's not uncommon to feel some tightness in the lower back. But there's a difference between tightness and pain. And if you suffer from lower back challenges, deadlift is something to really ease your way into it. Absolutely. And probably do it with no resistance at all initially. Keep that core super tight. So core pulled in, stomach muscles pulled in. You want to keep whatever you're using, which is the ball, I want close to my shins, driving my heels through the floor, coming up, pushing my heels through, press. One more. Hinging at the hips first. Keep them close. Press. Now, depending on your flexibility with your back of the thighs and your lower back, determines really how low you're going to be able to get down to the floor. Don't sacrifice the form of your back. So don't try to go down so far to where the integrity of the back begins to go, okay? So just listen to your body. You'll get there with more stretching and more flexibility as far as, how low you can actually go. All right, but you want to feel that tightness build up in the back of the legs and the rear end. Okay, so we used the medicine ball today. We went through about 4 to 5 different exercises and ways we can incorporate the medicine ball and do multiple movements in at the same time, so that way you can kind of speed up your workout routine if you don't have a lot of time. So I love the medicine ball. If you've got questions about uses of it, maybe recommendations on what weight you should have with the medicine ball, any other exercises that you can do with medicine ball, there's tons of them you can do. You can email me directly at fitness@livia.com. I'd be happy to kind of explain this routine for you, or any other questions you have as it relates to your exercise. Just remember, mastering form is about slowing things down, really getting the whys behind the whats, and learning the proper movement and functionality, but learning it in a way that it kind of makes sense and not using too many of the technical terms as it comes to the different muscle groups and body groups. So really kind of breaking it down and slowing it down for you. So thank you so much for joining me for it. I look forward to seeing you next time, and remember to always practice using the right form.